Self-care isn't selfish. It's sacred. Reclaim rest, renewal, and wholeness as acts of faithful discipleship. Join Sycamore Creek for this 4-week series to break free from burnout and embrace God's call to holistic well-being. Your soul needs a rest. Let's find it together.
Well, good morning again. My name is Michal White. I'm the pastor of the South Lansing campus of Sycamore Creek Church. I said that earlier, but maybe not everybody got that, and that's totally fine. As Eric said, there is more seating down here, especially if you're willing to sit on this side of the picnic tables. There's more seating down here. Now, before we get started today, I had this idea that I was going to invite you to have some sort of introspective moment where everybody got quiet and closed their eyes, and then I remembered we would be here, and that would probably not work. So, in as much as you're able, I do want to invite you just to check in with yourself. What are you feeling today? What are you feeling this morning? What emotions are coming up for you today? I have a sense of some joy to be here with you. This is exciting to see you. I also have some sadness that's lingering in me from lost friendships. What are you feeling this morning? Many of us grew up in homes or in situations where we weren't taught to identify our emotions. We weren't given tools to understand and feel our feelings. We didn't have emotion wheels. Some of you don't even know what emotion wheels are. We didn't have emotion wheels up in our homes. Some of us, it went a step further than that. And we were taught to be suspicious of our emotions. We were taught that we couldn't trust them. We were taught maybe even that emotions are weak and for women. And maybe you're wondering, okay, how woo-woo is this going to get today? Well, I am a woman, so brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. All right, so all of this message is based on this premise that our God, the God we worship, is a feeling God. God is a feeling God. We look to Jesus, who is God in the flesh, and Jesus wept. Jesus experienced anger. Jesus experienced joy. Jesus experienced longing. These are all words of feeling. And they reflect a God who feels, a God who made us in God's image, so we are feeling beings. We feel just like our God feels. Okay, so the good news for you all this morning, some of you are really distracted by all the stuff that's happening right now. We like to have chat questions and give you a chance to talk it out. So I'm even going to have a 4-minute timer. You have 4 minutes to talk about this chat question. This chat question is, what kind of messages did you get about emotions when you were growing up? Now, you don't have to talk about this chat question. I'm not going to go around and check your work, right? You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So turn to the people who are at your table and take some minutes to talk about it. This morning, we're continuing our series, Sacred Self-Care. We're continuing the series we started last week called Sacred Self-Care. It's based on a book by Dr. Shaniqua Walker Barnes. Just so you know, I'm leading a small group on this book with Pastor Sunrisa Cortez. She's the MSU director, the Wesley director at MSU. And that starts a week from tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up through our groups and events catalog on your connection card. This series is part of a series of series that we're doing based on the Sermon on the Mount. And so for these 18 months, our series are inspired by topics that we find in this famous sermon from Jesus in Matthew chapter 5 through 7. And for this series, we're looking to some of the words he said in chapter 6, where he describes how the birds of the air are fed and the flowers of the earth are clothed, and he encourages us to be present to our current lives by not obsessively worrying about the future. He says, Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. Today's trouble is enough for today. In other words, resist the urge to obsess over the future, to relentlessly work for some kind of goal in the future, to just be driven by anxiety. Find ways to be present in the here and now. It's sort of like an invitation to a presence practice. And presence practice can be a form of self-care. And self-care is our focus for this series. Last week, we began with a foundation of self-care, and we learned that self-care isn't selfish, it's actually sacred. Self-care is sacred. And this week, we're going to explore one element of self-care, which is honoring our emotions. Honoring our emotions. Because when we're whole, when we're at peace within ourselves, we have alignment in our emotions, in our thoughts, in our behaviors, in our bodily experiences. I recently started meeting with a new coach, and she will listen to me describe some of the challenges I'm facing and then ask me questions, helping me to think what do I already know is the path forward here. And she said that she's going to ask me questions about my feelings and my thoughts and my bodily experiences, because if I'm out of alignment, if one of those things is wildly different than the other two, there's a sign that something needs to be tended. She said for herself that she can feel like she's going just like normal, everything's good, and then she realizes she has some tension in her neck and her shoulders, and she needs to go see a chiropractor or a massage therapist. And that's a sign. It's like a warning sign, a check engine light for her body that says something is actually needs some tending here. Or, as Dr. Shaniqua Walker-Barnes puts it, emotions are not the enemy of reason. They are companions to it. Emotions are not the enemy of reason. They're companions to it. So we're going to talk today about some emotions that we tend to shy away from, some emotions that we tend to avoid. And then I'm going to give you some practices for honoring your emotions. And we're going to start first with joy and then with anger. And this is where Dr. Walker-Barnes starts, and to be honest, it kind of surprised me. Joy? That's a fun emotion. I like feeling joy. Why is this something that I might shy away from? And the answer is because it's vulnerable. Exuberant joy is vulnerable. In fact, there's a story I want to tell you from the Old Testament, from 2 Samuel. It's about a person named Michal. Not that one. Actually, this one. She was Saul's daughter and David's first wife, King David's first wife. And King David was working to protect the Ark of the Covenant and to restore it to its intended location. And the Ark of the Covenant, in some places that might be called the Lord's chest, in a verse we're about to look at, it held the presence of God. It was a sacred relic. And King David was working to put it back where it belongs. And so he brought the ark back to Jerusalem, and then he rejoiced. And it says, as the Lord's chest entered David's city, Saul's daughter Michal was watching from a window. She saw King David jumping and dancing before the Lord, and she lost all respect for him. She pulled him aside and attempted to shame him for his exuberant joyfulness. Now, maybe you've never overseen the movement of an ancient, sacred, religious artifact. But I bet that you have been shamed for your exuberant joy. I bet that maybe you've even shamed someone else for their exuberant joy. Something like you can't stop laughing in the middle of class and your teacher calls you out in front of everybody. Or you get super excited about a new exhibit at the zoo and none of your friends care and they keep moving you along. Worst of all, we tend to internalize those messages of shame and we self-censor. We shut ourselves down. As Dr. Walker-Barnes put it, we become our own Michal. Now for you, that's metaphorical. For me, that's literal. and also metaphorical, right? We have another chat question here for you to reflect on this idea of joy and what it means to be filled with exuberant joy. So here it is. When was the last time you felt joy? What would it feel like to experience exuberant, full-bodied joy? And what keeps you from feeling that? Again, I'm not going to check your work. Talk about what you want to. So turn to someone around you and have a conversation. We're going to move now to talking about a different emotion that's sometimes difficult for us, and that is anger. Anger. And we're remembering here, right, that emotions are not the enemy of reason. They're companions to it. There's a place in the New Testament where the Apostle Paul is writing a letter to the church in Ephesus, and he says, after you've gotten rid of lying, each of you must tell the truth to your neighbor because we are parts of each other in the same body. Be angry without sinning. Don't let the sun go down on their anger. It's really fun to be here with lots of kids and have they're exuberant in their joy. They're showing us what it is to be exuberant in their joy. All right. But turning back to anger, because sometimes they also teach us how to be angry well. I didn't mean to go there, but all right. Anger is not inherently sinful. Anger by itself is not bad. It's not like the absence of joy or the absence of optimism or hope. It's not the enemy of unity and fellowship. Anger is inescapable in Christian fellowship. Maybe you didn't hear that. I'm going to say that again. Anger is inescapable in Christian fellowship. Anger is kind of like a flame. Anger is like a flame. It can warm you, it can cook things, it can sanitize things, and it can also burn and blister and destroy. The problem is not the flame itself. The problem is how we use it, what boundaries we put around it, how we contain it. Anger is a normal and natural emotion. It's a natural reaction to a perceived threat. It's part of the fight, flight, freeze response that God hardwired into our nervous systems. Anger is a signal that something is wrong and it needs tending. A lot of the time, anger is a secondary emotion that covers up fear or hurt. Fear or hurt are often feel more vulnerable to express, and so this is sort of like a defense mechanism that we have. I'm not going to reveal the vulnerability of my fear or my hurt, and instead I'm going to express anger. So once we no longer need that anger to survive, in other words, once our nervous systems can come out of that space, we can begin to approach our anger with some gentle curiosity. We can ask, what triggered my anger? Why is it here? How does this anger impact my body? How does this anger impact my behavior? What lesson is it teaching me? And what do I need to give my anger to heal in this moment? We don't need to suppress the anger. And we also don't need to make it bigger than it is. We just need to honor it, be curious about it. And I think joy and anger together can be cultivated alongside each other for us to become more healthy. Dr. Walker Barnes says that joy can be a powerful companion to anger. It can set boundaries around anger, just like a flame, right? Like you need boundaries around a flame. Joy can set boundaries around anger, diffuse it, direct it to an appropriate outlet. Intentionally seeking joy in the aftermath of anger can be a way of telling ourselves, thanks for signaling that something was wrong and that I needed protection. Now that I'm safe, I'm going to soothe the leftover pain by seeking out joy. Joy and anger can be companions to each other. So we've explored these two emotions, anger and joy, and now we're going to shift and talk about some practices that we can develop to honor our emotions. And the first one is to anticipate the things that are hard. Have you ever heard that adulthood saying, but after this week, everything will slow down a bit, over and over, until you die? We delude ourselves into thinking that it's about to get better. We also probably all have stressful events or situations that recur, and every time it was really stressful last time, but it's not going to be stressful this time. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And then it's not. My husband is a high school teacher. He became a high school teacher a couple of years ago, and so we're still adjusting to these new rhythms and trying to figure out what seasons, what times of the year are super stressful, like the last couple of weeks of school. Do you know that there's 9 days left in the school year? Because I do. Right? One practice that we can develop to care for ourselves is to anticipate these seasons, to stop deluding ourselves into thinking, well, it's going to be better this time. This year, it's going to be better. The past 3 years have been super stressful, but surely this one will be fine. It'll be fine. No, it's probably still going to be stressful, right? We got to stop deluding ourselves. So this doesn't mean to just work up stress for the future, right? We're not just trying to be anxious about everything, but it's anticipating and accommodating our human limitations. I'm going to give you a couple of ways that we can do this. First, adjust your schedule. If you know, we know the next couple of weeks are going to be hard, and also I'm a pastor and I have a conference that I have to go to at the end of this coming week. I can't get out of that. So what can we do? We can say no to extra things. We can say, we're not going to commit to this extra thing. We're going to even cancel some plans. We're going to adjust our schedule to make sure that we are not too overcommitted. We can ask for help. Now, we don't need a meal train for this week, but in other times of our lives, we have. In other times of our lives, when my kids were smaller, we would invite my parents or his parents to come and be with us so that we had an extra set of adults on hand. We had to ask for help. Account for meals. Okay, you guys with little kids, the meals are a big deal. Cooking, planning meals 3 times a day, it's a lot. And so some things that you can do, you can cook and freeze ahead of time. You can meal plan so that decision-making work is done before in a non-stressful time. You can budget for takeout. You got to account for the meals. And the last thing is you add to your calendar. Now, this seems a little counterintuitive, but what I mean is that before or after that stressful event, you add in time to recover. You plan a walk with your friend. You take the day off. You say, these 4 hours, this day, whatever it is, I'm going to not do any work. I'm going to recover. Maybe if you have the resources for it, you might add an appointment with your therapist or your chiropractor or your massage, whatever. Add in things like that as you need to rest and recover. Essentially, this is just paying attention to the rhythms that are already there in your life and accepting your own human limitations. And then doing what you can, and a lot of times we need our community to do this well, to care for yourself. This is the moments I like to say, thanks, past me. You were looking out for me. I don't know. I like to say that. It helps me to acknowledge the times that I did something for myself. Sometimes I need to celebrate that. All right, I've got another chat question for you. Are there seasons in your life related to your work or your family or something else that are predictably stressful? What are they? How do you or could you prepare for those seasons? Turn around and have a conversation with someone. Talked some about joy and about anger. We've talked about one way that we can begin to care for our emotions, to honor ourselves, or honor our emotions and care for ourselves. We've got a couple more practices that I want to share with you. First is find reasons to laugh. Find reasons to laugh. That old adage, laughter is the best medicine, there's some truth to it. Like, laughter is being studied as an intervention for mental and physical health issues. So stop and think about the last time that you laughed out loud, that you had a full belly laugh. What prompted it? How could you develop more of that? For me, hanging out with funny people who laugh a lot is like a key. Sitting around a table with my friends and coming up with silly or snarky things that you can put on a nameplate. I'm just pretending to care. World's okayest boss. This is funny to me. Not world's okayest boss, although that is funny too. But these nameplates are funny to me. Sometimes it's just the look that you give your friend when you just know. You know what they're thinking. We know. Sometimes it's hearing the punchline of a new joke. You're welcome. Now, let's be clear. Laughter is not a curative. It will not vanquish depression or anxiety or hypertension, but it can reduce stress hormones that are associated with multiple illnesses and poor health conditions. Laughter also increases endorphins, which relieve pain and distress. So you may be in a season where intentionally seeking a good laugh every day could be really healing. It's that pursuit and the cultivation of joy. All right, so we talked about anticipating the hard, finding reasons to laugh. One more practice you can develop to honor your emotions is to cultivate play and creativity. Do you remember when you packed up your childhood toys? You sold the box of trains, you gave away the bin of dolls, you put away the dress-up clothes or the action figures. What prompted that? Maybe your parents or your older siblings or even your friends were why are you still playing with toys? That's kind of a little kid thing to do. Are you still a little kid? Is there a set time that childhood toys get put away? When someone's not a child anymore, when we grow out of play and creativity? Dr. Walker Barnes says that humans, it seems, are the only mammals that outgrow play. During early adolescence, we become self-conscious about looking silly, childish, or worst of all, uncool. We stop playing anything except video games, sports, and musical instruments. Why do we think that we outgrow play and creativity? All right, I don't know how to tell you this story. I'm a little embarrassed about it. When I was in college, I randomly, I got into a My Little Pony kick. I had this pony. This is Shenanigans. This is not my pony, but I had this one. I got decorations for my dorm room. I got a Christmas ornament that I still have. My sister, at the same time, got into Care Bears, so there must have been something going on in our lives. I don't really 100% know. When I think back to that time, we also got an Easy Bake Oven, by the way, for our dorm. That was fun. I have mixed emotions about telling you this or about reflecting on it. Part of me is embarrassed by it. And I think maybe you'll tease me about this. This was a childish thing that I was doing in college. And at the same time, I feel I think I was recovering some part of my childhood that I felt I had missed out on. And so there was something healing there for me. What are ways that you can learn to grow and play now? For a lot of people, myself included, there's Legos. I feel I saw Legos over here somewhere. I love the botanicals collection because they're flowers, and then I feel I can display them, and I don't look like a weirdo who has a basement full of Legos. Not that I'm shaming anybody else's exuberant joy, but maybe. Okay. Maybe it's trying something new that you're not good at. Just for the fun of it, painting. I like to play with watercolor paint, and I'll make bookmarks and other stuff like that, but it's really just a blob of color, and then I draw in stuff around it, like pumpkins or popsicles or something like that. That's what I got. It's fun. It's not something I'm very good at, but I enjoy doing it. and I feel pretty good about the product sometimes, So creativity and play are important practices for honoring our emotions and cultivating joy. And the practice of doing something that you're not very good at, hear me on this. The practice of doing something that you're not very good at is an exercise in not demanding perfection from yourself. The practice of doing something you're not very good at is an exercise in not demanding perfection for yourself. It's another way to honor your emotions and to care for yourself. This is really hard for a lot of us, but it's an important practice. Okay, I have one more question for discussion, one more chat question for you. What kinds of things make you laugh out loud? And what is a way that you like to engage in creativity or play? Have a conversation with someone around you.